Hello and welcome everyone to the Global Positive Health Institute Sci-Cast, where we take a look at an article and riff off of that on concepts related to positive psychology, lifestyle medicine, and more. And I'm always happy to have on the Sci-Cast with me Simon Mathews on our GPHI board. And so, welcome, Simon. And we are going to dig in today on the topic of mattering. And in the description, we'll post a link to the article. It's a mouthful. It's an introduction, review, and conceptual analysis of mattering as an essential construct and an essential way of life. Very mouthful. But basically, it's saying mattering's important. So we'll talk more about that. And that was
Yeah.
published in 2022. And lead author is Gordon Flett. And I have really been thinking a lot about this topic ever since we had our Meaning, Purpose, and Spirituality Summit in March of 2025, where the GPHI collaborated with the American College of Lifestyle Medicine to dig into these constructs. And the construct of mattering also came up. And we're just delighted to be able to dig into that. And we're writing papers around that, and grateful for the Ardmore Institute of Health for funding all these activities. And I think a lot will come out of that. But for today, we're just going to really focus on mattering. So to start us off, Simon, from that psychological viewpoint, what is mattering?
Yeah, it's a great, a great question, Liana. I'm going to start with a I'm going to start with a very everyday definition, and then we'll sort of make our way progressively towards getting clarity about that. In short, something matters, or someone matters, uh, if you miss it or you miss them when they're not there. So the everyday example, of course, is think of a kitchen utensil that you use all the time. I don't know, maybe it's a wooden spoon that you use to stir the lentil soup, or maybe it's your vegetable peeler, whatever it might be. You know that that particular utensil matters to you when you go looking for it and it's not there, and you really, really need or want that to be there in order to accomplish something. So that's an everyday definition of mattering. It's something that we miss if it's not there. But if we drill down into that a little bit, particularly as it relates to people rather than objects, then we can start to tease out some other specific domains or dimensions that make up mattering. The first is attention, that people actually pay attention to us. People both literally see us and then they metaphorically see us as well. They see our experience, they hear our experience, they understand our experience. The second dimension is that I probably close to that idea that I just shared about the kitchen utensil, the idea of importance. Mattering means that people around us, whoever they are, regard us as important and would miss us if we're gone. The third is the idea of dependence, that there's some level of that the importance rises to the level of being depended upon in some way to fulfill a function for other people. There's also the idea, and this links, I think, to ideas of empathy. The idea that what we experience as people is understood deeply by people around us. And this is kind of this idea of being metaphorically seen and understood by someone else. Another dimension is simply the idea of being appreciated by others, valued enough that we're appreciated by others. And then also the idea of reciprocity. So in the same way as we feel valued by others, we also value others. So all of those things together, I think go to make up from a psychological dimension what we're talking about when we talk about mattering. And mattering, of course, can be it's a little like self-esteem and self-efficacy. So self-esteem we tend to think of as global. Self-efficacy we tend to think of as task related. So I can feel good about myself as a human being, and I can be a terrible, terrible carpenter with no woodworking skills at all. So I have very low levels of efficacy in that specific domain, but I still think well of myself as a person. In the same way, mattering can be general, broad, a global kind of mattering, and it can also be domain specific. Mattering to a partner, mattering to friends, mattering to work colleagues, mattering to colleague students, and so on. So it is a complex construct, and like a lot of words, in our language, in all languages, this one word mattering really encompasses this multitude of perspectives and meanings that can take quite some time to dig to the bottom of.
Yeah, yeah. And and as you're speaking, it it really brings home that the construct is so essential to our very well-being, particularly if, like you said, we can have a general sense of mattering or mattering in specific contexts. But if we look around and we don't have a sense of mattering in any context or in general, then we're in real trouble from a
Mm,
well-being perspective. So the lack of mattering can really spiral us into depression, into becoming suicidal. And as I was mentioning a little while ago, this has remembered for me, it brings back memories of when I was working in psychiatry and we were looking to diagnose patients with depression a little bit more accurately, or what is there a linchpin that really makes you pay attention? And probably a lot of our listeners are familiar with the nine elements that are in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual on how to diagnose depression. And if you meet five of those nine criteria, you quote, meet the criteria for depression. But sometimes those are tricky because they overlap with other physical elements, like having insomnia can be because of something physical, it can be psychological. Does it really mean depression? And so we have to tease that out. And so sometimes, if we're really confused, what we're listening for and speaking with the patient is whether we're getting a sense that they feel worthless. And this construct of worthlessness is a key that that patient might really be in trouble.
mm,
They certainly
mm,
may be in a deep depression and may possibly be prone to suicide. And so the antithesis or the opposite of that really is the sense of mattering. So that's a scale or yeah, a continuum we can think about, and that correlates very well, I think, with well-being.
Absolutely, absolutely. Liana, what are some of the a couple of the notable positive benefits of mattering?
Well, mattering really is the one of the main uh, elements of having physical health, certainly emotional health and well-being, and this feeling aliveness. And the data really shows this correlation. Again, that if there's lack of mattering, there's higher rates of at least suicidal ideation. So that if we have mattering, we're just able to fully embrace our lives and get to that sense of vitality, sense of
Mm, mm,
well-being, and having this sense of vitality, of course, makes sense that as we encounter bumps in the road of life. and all the stress that we encounter in life, we're able to buffer against that stress. So that's another a vital benefit of a sense of mattering. Uh,
mm,
and
mm,
and so then um, how do we build that? Well, it's particularly important, as you can imagine, in relationship, right? So if we getting that kind of positive feedback that we matter to others, and we're also expressing that they matter to us, that the social health component is very closely tied with mattering, and
mm.
we certainly have then the social health, which relates to then emotional, mental well-being, and with mind-body connections, also with physical well-being.
Mm, mm, mm. This is we find increasingly, don't we, in lifestyle medicine and positive psychology, so many so many constructs that overlap uh, each other and intersect with each other. Um, and I really hope that one day someone can come up with either. I'd be happy with either of these. Either a grand unified theory of lifestyle medicine, a single robust conceptual description and explanation that makes sense of everything that we understand about health, vitality, thriving, well-being, and so on. Or alternatively, what's slightly more appealing is an elegant structural equation model that shows us the pathways and the relationships and the interconnections between concepts like mattering, like appreciation, like gratitude, like resilience, and so on and so on and so on. Um, they intersect in very, very complex ways, and I would love to see an elegant model of this design. If anyone listening happens to be a bit of a wizard with structural equation models, feel free to take this on and come back to us.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. And in the meantime, we can certainly all be and acknowledge and be aware and harness all these elements that we know overlap and interconnect in complex ways,
Yeah.
and make the best use out of them. And again, here, this construct of mattering, I don't know that we've made it very explicit in lifestyle medicine and healthcare, and yet it is one of those crucial elements in that important soup of
Mm.
well-being, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the really crucial parts, which is certainly a takeaway for me from the paper that we're talking about, is that it's not an optional extra. Um, it's not the case that mattering is a nice thing to have and it'll boost your health and well-being. It's very clear that if we absent this experience, then it has a deleterious impact on health and well-being. It's quite literally bad for us not to matter.
Exactly, exactly. And a takeaway for me also from reading this article, because often as I was first learning about this concept, was thinking about it on an individual level. And I started to broaden my view of this. Well, one thing, even on the individual level, it's throughout the lifespan and has important intersects with our life stages. It's important from youth development, all the way to healthy and productive aging. I mean, certainly people as they age out of their traditional careers, they can face crises and mattering and being relevant.
Mm,
So across life stages, and that might mean that we consider harmonizing or personalizing mattering interventions throughout the lifespan, and think about that from a global perspective for an individual. But also stepping even farther back, how important it is in communities and from that sort of public health, public policy perspective, that yeah, we might need to consider different interventions that engage individuals in our communities and our societies to help not only those individuals, but to help our communities. An example of this is keeping our communities safe because some very disturbed individuals who are feeling lonely, who feel that they don't matter, can start to act out and be violent. And we certainly have encountered all the mass shootings. And when you dig deep, those are individuals that perhaps are looking to call attention to themselves. They're looking for a non-constructive way to matter in the world and to be seen. Like you said, that construct of really being seen. So all of a sudden, it just has even greater, more global consequences if we're not able to harness mattering for individuals and society.
Mm, mm, mm. One of the perennial questions that's asked here, Liana, and it gets asked more and more as we kind of dive deeper into technology and technology aided solutions to things, is what's the impact of our generational high use of technology um, uh, when it comes to mattering. And I actually think the answer to this is quite complex and nuanced, as it is for all questions related to technology. And I started becoming familiar with this body of research when I was preparing to a couple of years back, preparing to update the American College of Lifestyle Medicine Foundations of the board review course, Foundations of Lifestyle Medicine board review course for the IDLN examination. So this question of what's the relationship between technology and health and well-being? Generally speaking, I would summarize it this way, that if 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 we're talking about a technology, for example, like sitting in front of a television and watching hours of television all day, it's very hard to imagine how any of those elements that we talked about of mattering would get satisfied. Attention, importance, dependence, appreciation, certainly not reciprocity. There's no ticks next to any of those things. Similarly, if I'm spending hours a day writing computer code for something, and I'm not seeing an end product to that, I'm not seeing an impact that that's having. I think that has a negative impact on mattering. Um, if I'm scrolling social media of one sort or another, and getting 30 seconds of this and 30 seconds of that, again, hard to see how those boxes get ticked. Where it gets a little bit less clear, I think, is where perhaps it is possible to matter in some of those domains. For example, um, just here in Madrid last weekend, we had the Madrid hosted it's the international gaming championships, I think. So people playing video and computer games at a very, very high level of skill. Now, there are people who are spending hours and hours and hours every day in front of a computer, interacting with this particular game that they're becoming very skilled at. But when they receive attention, when they receive awards, when they receive kudos, when they receive the recognition of their peers, that starts to create a sense of mattering for the person. So where it kind of leaves me is that I don't think we can take a blanket approach with technology. And I'll use the phrase AI here as well, AI assisted technologies. I don't think we can take a blanket approach with that. We really need to understand the context and the application of those things in order to understand whether mattering is a part of that, and if so, how.
Yeah, and on top of that, sort of in my mind, when I think of potential um, crisis, if you will, that humanity might encounter with AI, because AI is doing so much for us. It's one thing if you're a technology expert and you're somehow able to create uh, and expand on AI, but at some point, right, there these discussions about AI being able to surpass our ability to use it as a tool, because you were describing how we can use it as a tool and then we matter as humans, but perhaps at some point it's doing its own thing, and in fact it's doing its own thing that we would ordinarily do, and it's doing a better job of it. And then I say, but we can still matter from a human side of mattering and from a positive psychology side of mattering, because a machine is still a machine and doesn't have a nervous system. And particularly in positive psychology, we care about the parasympathetic nervous system. And so if it's engaging with humans, yes, the chatbots are very helpful for counseling, etc. But that what we call in positive psychology, that positivity resonance that may
Mm,
happen between two individuals or between a coach and an individual, can only, by definition, happen in a biological system, and there's no biological system. So I'm hopeful
mm,
that humanity, I'm thinking way in the future, we'll still feel that we matter, we make a difference in connection to other human beings that will never be surpassed by machines.
mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Um,
Um, beyond beyond interventions in healthcare and medicine, how can we promote mattering, do you think, Liana, for health and well-being?
Yeah, that's a really important question, especially for those of us in health coaching and lifestyle medicine, and in looking for ways to improve vitality, emotional well-being, is that mattering is important, and we need to put on our oxygen masks first as health professionals, coaches, and others. So we can use mattering to within the team context, within the broader health team context, and making sure that we are concretely and overtly being aware of and expressing how others matter to us on the team in order to offer effective lifestyle medicine, effective healthcare in
Mm,
general, is an important part. Let's start with ourselves. And even that little bit, I bet, doesn't happen very often in whatever health system we're in. So if we can make progress there, that will have ripple effects in how we interact with patients. Those patients will feel it. They will feel empowered
mm,
to do what they need to do for their own well-being. And
mm, mm,
also, it can be tied to, specifically in lifestyle medicine, we care about health behavior change, that empowerment, mattering, creating small steps towards one's behavior change goals, and seeing that have ripple effects. The pros, we weigh the pros and cons of making a change, but the pros are that maybe that has a positive effect on others, like if we're able to be more physically active, be more energetic,
yeah.
and we're then able to be there for our grandchildren, for example. And congrats on your new grandbaby and two grandbabies, by the way. So I'm sure you're feeling vital and mattering and wanting to be more active and healthy, to be there for them and to truly matter for them. So it
Mm,
is, as we said earlier, a really core part of how we achieve and sustain, motivate health behavior change. It can be
mm.
integrated into that core of a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah. I think my mind goes straight to, the idea of, we've talked about this before, Liana, the idea of therapeutic alliance or coaching alliance, as it's also referred to in the literature, that all important connection between the practitioner and the patient, and thinking about what are the specific things that we can do to kind of power up this experience of mattering. And do you know, I think there are, I think doing that in healthcare is not necessarily that difficult. The three primary skills that all practitioners need in healthcare are the skills of listening, the skills of asking questions, and the skills of reflecting understanding. Listening is to listening is to the experience of mattering what air is to the experience of living. Um, Listening must be there for someone to have an experience of mattering. Deep listening, listening for understanding. Once we've done that, reflections, I think, are a powerful tool to show that the other person matters. And in fact, when I teach health coaching and health behavior change, one of the things I often say is that the reflection, the capacity to reflect, is the tool that the practitioner has to say to another person, "I see you, I hear you, and I understand you." And that, I think, ticks a lot of the boxes of mattering. And then the third element, questioning or inquiry, of course, shows our own curiosity and desire to understand more about this other person. In other words, you are worth understanding more. That's really what we're communicating there. So I think I think over and above any interventions that we might seek to apply, simply being this way and bringing our whole selves to the therapeutic encounter or the coaching encounter is itself a mattering intervention.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're speaking, what comes to mind is that there's a new book out, Radical Listening, which is all about this art of connection that's by Christian Nieuwenberg, who is at Royal College of Surgeons Ireland, and Robert Biswas Diener. And it's all about that kind of deep listening. Probably a lot of it is common sense to us, but to really get concrete about it and overt about it helps in connection and helps in that mutual mattering for sure. So that's I think, a lovely resource for our listeners. And as we wrap up, I'm also just very grateful that in this positive health realm that the Global Positive Health Institute is promoting, that we are able to step back and look at these interesting constructs that, again, have not been necessarily front and center in healthcare and medicine, and see what we can do to raise awareness with that. And so I'm appreciative of being able to do this Sci-Cast with you on this topic of mattering. And as we close out, any other thoughts, Simon?
I mean, the two words that are in my mind now, Liana, are mattering matters.
Yes, mattering matters, and you matter, our listeners. So thank you for joining us for this GPHI Sci-Cast, and please subscribe to our channel and check out some of our other videos and podcasts. And hope to see you again on another one of these Sci-Casts or other offerings from the GPHI. And then in the meantime, be safe, be well, and go out and do more things that matter. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.